When I was 15, my math teacher stood in front of the entire class, praised another student, then turned to me and told me straight to my face how stupid I was. What happened after that completely rewired how I think about motivation, discipline, and what actually drives human behavior. To fully understand the impact of that moment, I first need to show you the trap you're probably stuck in right now. Motivation is a $50 billion industry. Books, apps, seminars, courses, all built on one assumption, that you need something outside of yourself to function. I bought into pretty much all of it, but kept stumbling. And it took me years to realize the entire premise was the problem. Because when you go looking for motivation, you are, by definition, telling yourself, I need something outside of me to function. You are literally branding yourself as dependent. And that framing, that's not some minor detail. That's the whole game. Because it's baked into the outcome before you even start. Think about it. If your starting point is, I need a push to act, what happens when the push wears off? You stop. Every time. So it's not a willpower problem. It's an architecture problem. Because the whole setup is designed to fail. And look, I know this sounds harsh, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's the line that changed everything for me. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall, always, to the level of your identity. You want proof? Go look at lottery winners. Jack Whittaker, the guy who won $340 million, lost everything within 5 years. Like, really everything, okay? His bank account changed overnight, but who he was on the inside, it didn't budge, okay? Not 1 inch. Identity always wins, okay? Every single time. So this raises a question, and it's not the question you think it is. It's not, how do I find better motivation, or how do I set bigger goals? Instead, it's, who have I been reinforcing myself to be? Because, and this is the part most people miss, your identity isn't who you are. It's the version of yourself you've been building, one decision at a time, your whole life up until now. And that's a massive difference, okay? Someone might have told you at age 7 that you're just not a math person. And you know what happened? You carry that around ever since. It shaped every decision, every avoidance, every time you said, oh, I'm just not good at numbers. A single moment turned into a self-fulfilling prophecy that preordained the rest of your life. But that was never your identity. That was just old and arbitrary programming. Someone else's opinion that got installed before you were old enough to even question it. And here's where it gets exciting. If identity is something you practice, then you can practice being someone new. You're not stuck. You are just, running outdated software. Now, back to when that teacher called me, a 15-year-old kid back then, stupid in front of everyone. To fully understand that moment, we have to rewind a bit. When I was about 7, a teacher, a different one obviously, told me I was gifted at math. And back then, it was kind of true. I was miles ahead of my classmates, finishing assignments before anyone else, and genuinely bored out of my mind by how slowly we were moving through the material. But then, when puberty hit, I just, checked out, stopped paying attention, stopped caring. And slowly, not overnight, but gradually, I drifted all the way down to the bottom of the class. I'm talking Fs, okay? Routinely. Teachers completely writing me off. One of them actually told me I would never amount to anything meaningful. Just said that, okay? To a kid. And then came that day, the one I opened with. My math teacher standing up there, praising another student, then turning to me and basically calling me an idiot. Right there, in front of everyone. In hindsight, one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because something inside of me just snapped, okay? I thought, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. Now, I want to be honest about what happened next, because it was not a movie montage. It was not, he decided to change and then aced every test ever after. Not really. See, the thing about math is that you can't just skip to a new chapter. Math is cumulative by nature. Every concept is a prerequisite for the next. So I had years of missing building blocks, gaps on top of gaps on top of gaps, okay? So I had to go back all the way and fill every single one of them. For months, it genuinely felt like nothing was working. I'd put in the hours and still get terrible results. And the frustration, almost unbearable. There were so many moments where I thought, maybe the teacher was right. Maybe I really am just not smart enough. But I had this one thing going for me, that early imprint. That faint echo of, you're actually good at this, from when I was 7. And to be honest, I don't know if I could have done it without that. Because that tiny shred of belief is what kept me going through that period of feeling like an absolute idiot, okay? But then, slowly, things started to shift. Not dramatically, just things that used to completely stump me started clicking. Problems I would have stared at blankly a month earlier suddenly had a logic I could follow. Concepts that used to feel like staring at a foreign language started making sense. Pieces began connecting that I didn't even realize were related. And then everything accelerated until eventually, and I still get chills thinking about this, I became the top performing student in my entire school. When my teacher handed back my exam, perfect score. She had tears in her eyes. The same teacher, by the way. And it didn't stop there. That carried me all the way through college and beyond. Now, why am I telling you this? Not to brag. Honestly, I've told the story so many times, my younger brother probably wants to strangle me. I'm telling you because this experience taught me one of the most important lessons of my life. This was not talent, okay? This was identity, practiced through sheer perseverance, surviving months of self-doubt and frustration. I went from F's to the top, not because I was secretly a genius, but because I practiced being someone different until the evidence caught up. And I'm convinced, truly convinced, that if you can learn to read, write, speak, or drive a car, you can do this too, with whatever your version of math is, okay? But it starts with one thing. First, you choose who you want to be. Not what you want to achieve, but who you want to be. I want to get fit. That's just a goal. And goals need motivation. But I'm an athlete. That's an identity. And identity drives behavior on its own. I hope you can see the difference. One requires a push, the other just runs, okay? But here's the catch. You actually have to let yourself believe it's possible. Even just a crack. Because without that conviction, you will fold the second it gets hard. That belief of yours is the bridge that carries you through the ugly middle, the part where nothing seems to be working yet, and everything inside you is begging to quit. That's exactly what happened with me in math. That faint belief from my early childhood, thankfully, that was my bridge. And then second, you cast votes. Every single day, every action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. Write one page, you just voted writer. Do 10 push-ups, you voted athlete. Skip the junk food, you voted someone who respects their body. And here's the key shift. You're not doing these things to get something. Not as some painful means to an end you have to force yourself through. No, you're doing them because that's who you are. That reframe, trust me, it removes the need for motivation entirely. And third, and this is my secret weapon, you set an identity anchor. One small daily action that proves your new identity, non-negotiable, no matter what. For me, it's cold showers. And I know, hear me out. I'm not doing this for health benefits or testosterone or whatever. I do it for one reason, to prove to myself every single time that I'm someone who does hard things. Here's why this is so powerful. Cold showers, they never get easy. Your brain keeps saying, don't do it. Not today. You deserve a warm one. It never goes away. But every time you step in anyway, you are literally rewiring your brain to believe, I overcome resistance. That's just what I do. And because you're already showering anyway, it costs you nothing extra, okay? In fact, it will save you time because trust me, you will not be lingering in there. You will be in and out faster than you've ever showered in your life, with a free dopamine spike included. But here's the real magic. It bleeds into everything, okay? From your work ethic, your relationships, your ability to push through discomfort in any area of your life. One anchor, ripple effects everywhere. Now, I need to address something because I know some of you are thinking it. What about affirmations? What about visualizing my best self? Let me put it this way. Standing in front of a mirror chanting, I'm rich, I'm powerful, I'm successful. Your brain isn't stupid, okay? It knows you're lying. And every time you say something you don't believe, you actually erode trust with yourself. You're not building identity. You're undermining it, actually. Identity change is earned through action, period. You cannot wish yourself into a new person. And that brings me to the real moral of the story. Or I should rather say tragedy, because it's not that you're not capable of more. You are. The tragedy is that you might be out there right now, living a smaller version of yourself, held back by programming that was installed before you could even question it. Someone else's opinion or limitation, running your life. That's just insane, right? And look, rewiring that, it's not a brute force thing, okay? You can't just white knuckle your way into a new identity. It's more like deliberate architecture and real agency. It's about designing the small daily structures that quietly but consistently reshape who you are, until one day you wake up and realize, I'm actually not the same person I was 6 months ago. And that's what this channel is about, making that new identity second nature. Because your identity shapes your actions become your habits, and your habits reinforce your identity. And that loop determines your entire life. So the only question that matters is, who are you going to practice being tomorrow? If this shifted something for you, hit that like button. And if you want to go deeper, the actual daily systems, the architecture for making these shifts stick long-term, my brother and I are building all of that out right here. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. See you in the next one.